Hey everyone, it's Matt here, the TokuDragon, and today I'm talking about some news that just escaped me yesterday when it came out. However, it still has not been officially announced, at least while I'm recording this video. Maybe by the time it's out, it actually will have been officially announced, but Deca Ranger is actually coming out on DVD by Shout Factory in the US. Now, why do I say that it hasn't been officially announced? Well, while it is on Shout Factory's website, alongside, by the way, Ryuki, which I talked about just yesterday when that news came out on Twitter, sadly, though, it just hasn't been announced by Shout Factory, at least by their Twitter or anything like that. Ryuki has, though. That's why it's like, okay, cool, that's been officially announced, and of course it's on their website up for pre-order, but Deca Ranger hasn't. And also, by the way, I talked about this in the Ryuki video, so I want to mention it here as well. So I am wrong. I want to apologize to Spin-54, a Twitter user who actually posted about leaks that I now know are actual leaks and not quote-unquote leaks, the way I described them earlier this week, that these were the official box arts for Ryuki and Deca Ranger. And according to Shout Factory's website, this is the official box art for Deca Ranger. This extremely fake-looking box art. Like, I'm apologizing to Spin-54 not because I accused them of lying or anything like that, but because I just thought that they were being misled. Apparently they weren't, and their source is really good. Apparently they had a really good source. Or he had a really good source. So I just had no idea. I was just sitting around like, I don't know who this person is. They seemingly are doing some great things for the Toku community when it comes to actually cataloging different ways to get music officially, like Toku music officially in the US. Bless them for it. Love that. But at the same time, though, I'm like, I don't know who this dude is, though. Like, they don't say that they're a journalist or anything like that, so they don't have some huge following. Not that following, having a huge one really means much, but it still at least shows, like, okay, like, you're a bigger figure in the community, I guess. Like, it was just, oh, this is out. And then while that came out, everyone else was just running with it, and I was extremely confused by it all. So I made a video about it. But hey, turns out I was wrong, and I'm so happy to be wrong. I said this in the Ryuki video yesterday because guess what? Deca Ranger's a good show. Now it's coming out in the US, which is fantastic. And we're going to get some of those details a little bit later, but I just wanted to get that all out of the way. Also, by the way, this Deca Ranger link will be in the description box down below, but just looking at it right now, let me tell you why this looks so fake. If it doesn't kind of pop out to you like, oh, this doesn't look right. So, a few things. First of all, from what I've heard, I know that at least the pic on the left, the one with the bike, is actually not from Deca Ranger at all. It's actually from SPD. But allegedly, from what people are saying, every single picture here on the bottom, all these four, are actually from SPD and aren't from Deca Ranger. So normally, if you don't know how this works, and it's just fine if you don't, I've actually read a lot of articles about it, and I would highly suggest that you do as well. I'll link some down below, some Answer Man articles that I highly suggest you should read. Generally, all of them really are so insightful about when it comes to anime licensing. So from reading said articles, I know that normally you have actually, whatever the Japanese company is that you're licensing it from, in this case it's Toei, send you promotional art, send you artwork that you can use. Also, they could have just, screenshotted stuff from Deca Ranger and gotten that approved. So the fact that they didn't do any of that seemingly and they're using pics from SPD, immediately I was like, oh, cool, this is fake. But again, apparently it's not because it's on their website. Also, when you look at the pose, and again, I talked about this in the video that I made a few days ago, but assuming you haven't seen that, the fact that this pose right here from the Deca Rangers are actually the same pose used on the SPD Shout Factory box art. And normally, when you look at all of the other ones that Shout has done, none of them have actually been the same. Even ones that are actually transformed, none of them have actually been the same pose as their Power Ranger counterparts that they also put out on DVD. So it's a bit of a head scratcher why now of all times they would end up using this. Maybe they didn't get good promotional artwork, maybe there were some issues with Toei, just not having the best artwork out there. I mean, there was talk that during the Mega Ranger sets, they actually asked Toei for different masters for them, so that could have been what happened here. Complete speculation on my end. The point being is that for some reason they're reusing SPD stock footage, or stock photos, which made me go, ah, cool, that's fake. That's extremely fake. But again, not fake. So it is currently $47.98, which is a very sly move of them because it's actually under the $50 shipping threshold to get free shipping. Believe me, I checked. So sadly, you can't get free shipping with this. Also, by the way, it's coming out February 14th, 2023, which is actually a week after Ryuki. So it's coming out in the US. So I might be pre-ordering them. There's no like poster or anything like that here, and there are some people, by the way, that were also a little bit confused because Deca Ranger is out in Japan on Blu-ray. But here's the key here. So here's the factor. First things first, it was an upscale. It wasn't taken directly from film and remastered, and those are the two different ways that you can actually put things on Blu-ray. Well, actually, there's technically three, but usually you will see one of two ways in Japan, and you know, in the U.S. as well. Usually, it will either be, oh, this was upscaled, which can look better, but at this point, though, you're not really going to make that choice, in my opinion, and I'll get to why in just a sec. At least with Shout Factory, I think they wouldn't make that choice. Or you go back to the drawing board with the actual film, and you actually remaster it from there. So when you look at Toku releases, from what I know, Ultra Q and the original Ultraman are actually taken from film. When it comes to stuff that's released in the US, Star Trek, at least TOS, I'm pretty sure, and I definitely know TNG, were actually remastered from film. I don't know why I'm taking the film out like this with all the light on. That would completely fuck up the film. Point is that that's how it's usually done when you say the word remaster. That really isn't a remaster. It's just an upscale, like when it comes to Deca Ranger. So, if you're going to shift over to Blu-ray out of nowhere for when you've been doing DVD for this long, just for an upscale and not an actual remaster, then in my opinion, I think it's great that they actually didn't go with the Blu-ray for this. So if you're wondering when it actually first started, when they actually first started filming in HD, and that's another way you can, of course, have you know, a show come out on Blu-ray natively, just have it natively in HD, and you don't have to like go back to the film and like stretch that thing out. Then that's actually Shinkenger. So the 2009 Sentai Shinkenger, that will definitely, that's the whole name, not Samurai. It's just 2009 Sentai Shinkenger. Abare. That's the one that would be on Blu-ray first. And I think they'll make the shift then, but I think right now they're a little bit worried about making that shift. Again, pure speculation on my end, because of the fact that when you look at the fact that DVD players do not need to be updated in any way, they can just play DVDs. But when it comes to Blu-ray, you actually have to update firmware, and in certain cases, older Blu-ray players, especially ones that can't update to certain firmware, can't play newer Blu-ray discs. And now generally, sadly, as much as I love collecting physical media, sadly though, we are moving towards digital media, like an all-digital future. I don't like it. Don't flame me about it. I don't like it. It's just sadly where we're going. But that doesn't change the fact that where we look at, you know, with DVDs and Blu-rays right now, I would argue that more people have in their homes, in some form or another, DVD players, even if it's in their laptops or whatever, DVD players over having Blu-ray players. And sure, you can argue, but wait, but like, you know, the PS4 and PS5 users and whatnot. But honestly though, when you throw in the fact that when it comes to PS4s, you can also play DVDs on them, and you can also play DVDs on, like, you know, Xbox Ones, I would argue that you're actually covered there in both ways, in both respects. But when you have like just standard, just kind of, you know, run-of-the-mill DVD players from back in the day till now, you're gonna have a lot more DVD players out there, and a lot of them cheaper, in my opinion, than you would Blu-rays. And having, you know, let's say portable Blu-ray players versus portable DVD players. I say portable as in, you know, plugging it into a computer that maybe doesn't even have a disk drive, which they do exist. So I feel so old saying that, but it's true. So point being is that, yeah, I understand why they went for DVD over Blu-ray. I totally get why some of you would want them to go over to Blu-ray, and again, I hope they do with Shinkenger, but it makes so much sense here, especially when you look at the price of it, the fact that it's under $50. I would argue that if you're going to be putting that amount of episodes on Blu-ray, and it's not SD to Blu-ray, which I'll talk about what that is in just a second, that's the one that I alluded to much earlier, the other way of potentially putting episodes on Blu-ray. If it's not SD to Blu-ray, then it's going to end up costing even more. So we could have potentially $70, maybe even $80 sets that, don't get me wrong, would end up going down in sales, but would still be $10 to $20 more expensive. And quite frankly, at this point, especially because we're not at native HD, I'd rather just frickin' go with DVD. Now, what is SD to Blu-ray? And it's something that I think that they should have done potentially from the get-go, but again, because of the whole having more DVD players out there thing, I get why they didn't. When you look at SD to Blu-ray, I want to say SD to DVD every time, it's basically taking standard definition files that you would see on, you know, a DVD DVD, like that kind of quality file, and putting them on a Blu-ray. Now, why would you do that? Why would you, is it not confusing maybe to the customer? That could be a reason why they're a little bit nervous about doing that. Also, you're mastering more episodes, and that takes, more time, just more resources. But here's the thing, though. If you want to save costs, and saving costs meaning having like less discs, less holders and whatnot, it actually makes sense to take, let's say, a 25 episode series, or even in this case, right, when you look at Sentai, there are like usually 8 to 10 discs for some of these Sentai. You could definitely reduce that to literally half by putting more episodes on a Blu-ray disc, which obviously Blu-ray discs have more space, and it would just make a ton more sense to do that than actually just, put them on DVDs. I'm happy that they have, because again, I do think that the price is worth it. There's pros and cons to doing it, but that is another way to do it if they wanted to. I mean, they could have done this from day one, but if they wanted to, they could have done that. But again, why have any kind of brand confusion like that? Why give people, getting them confused by going, wait, it's still DVD quality, but it's on Blu-ray? No need to do that, especially at this point. We're getting back in the swing of things with Super Sentai in the US, which, by the way, I'm loving that too. There was a chance that when you looked at the 5-man and the Alba Ranger sets, you were like, that's neat and all, but are these holdovers from what they were going to do before Hasbro bought Saban? Or bought Saban, dear God. Bought the rights to Power Rangers from Saban? Or is this actually like new stuff that they're doing? And obviously with Deca Ranger, it's new stuff that they're doing, baby. So I'm super excited about that. Again, February 14th, 2023. If you are not familiar with how this normally works, not coming with the movies whatsoever, that is a separate license completely. When it comes to when Saban initially got the license from Toei for Super Sentai to make it, Power Rangers, they basically ended up only getting the rights to the shows, and that's why we've never seen a Sentai movie legally in the US. That doesn't mean that no other company could potentially try, but also remember that a lot of Super Sentai movies are kind of short. I shouldn't say a lot, but definitely in the 90s era of Super Sentai, either there were no movies or they were, maybe they wouldn't be the best standalone features, I feel. Although, to be fair, I might just be thinking of Deca Ranger being literally like 20 minutes long. But even the Shinkenger movie, 19 minutes long, if I remember correctly. Less than a full episode of its actual show, Shinkenger, less runtime. So, it doesn't really make sense to have standalone movie releases, especially when movies, again, they are usually separate licenses from their shows. That's another reason why I was a little confused why Ryuki has episode final on it, and why I thought that was a potential leak, a fake leak, because of the fact that, they're gonna not have that sold separately and have that bundled in. Alright, I'm down, but alright. But in this case, though, they would have to pay a separate license to do so, and then things would probably get a little hazy and whatnot with residuals, and that's probably why they have not done that yet, and may, in fact, never do that in the US. There would have to be some kind of change in the contract, I assume, with Toei and Hasbro to have that happen, and they're just going off the old contract, which gives them the rights to, all that footage, even pre-Power Rangers footage, obviously, which is nice, but seemingly none of the films. And, by the way, when I say films, I also mean crossover films as well, clearly. Sad, but that's just the way it is. And, of course, no dub as well, again, per usual. No closed captions either, it says, which I find interesting, because the subtitles that were done for 5-mans seemingly were kind of closed caption-esque. Didn't hear anything about the Alba Ranger ones being that way as well, but they might have been. So I'm wondering how these subtitles are going to look, if they're going to look the quote-unquote old way before Hasbro was in the mix, or if they're going to have this interesting kind of mix of, like, closed captions but also English subtitles. And I perfectly am fine with that. I would just like them to be an alternate track, because closed captions and subtitles done for like anime and foreign film and television are very different. But still, if it's about inclusivity and having more people being able to enjoy these shows, then that's fantastic, and I love it. And also, by the way, before we wrap this one up, very important, when it comes to the latest Super Sentai releases, as of right now, they are not on Amazon, which I think that's actually pretty good, actually, because of the fact that pre-ordering on Amazon is such a pain, and I think it's much easier to pre-order, let's say, through something like Shout Factory or Right Stuff than it is on Amazon. But also, they seemingly are not on streaming either. I don't know if they will never be on streaming. I know that for Amazon, there's a bit of a gap because of the fact that they want to be on Shout Factory first for, I believe, about 3 months months or so. I don't know if that's what's going to happen with streaming. Just know that when it comes to Five-Man, when it comes to Alba Ranger, and when it's going to come to Deca Ranger in February, they will not be on Tubi. Hopefully the other two are on Tubi then. But when they were first released, they weren't. And as of recording of this video, they're still not. So as much as I love going on Tubi or Shout Factory TV and getting that little taste of the show and, you know, showing people, hey, listen, if you want to buy this, let's watch it here first. And then they fall in love with it and then they end up checking it out and purchasing it. That might not be the case with this one. So definitely save up if you need to. I know that I will be. So either way, though, thank you all so much for watching. As always, love you all. Take care and tune in next time. So see ya.